What happens when someone finally sees the part of you that makes you feel different and you realize you're not alone after all? On this episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast, I sit down with Melanie Paticoff Grossman, founder and CEO of Sophie's Tales, LLC, an educational publishing company focused on empowering children with hearing loss. She's the editor-in-chief of Hearing Our Way magazine and author of the beloved Sophie's Tales picture book series. In our conversation, Melanie shares what sparked her at a young age to know she would be doing this work, how her own ADHD impacts her work, and how she stays organized while raising a family, running a business, and supporting thousands of children through her writing. Tune in now, as May is National Speech Language Hearing Month. Don't forget, subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. You can also stream this episode and every episode on all major platforms. Today's the Day is more than just a podcast. As a transformational architect, certified professional coach, and consultant with over 20 years of leadership experience in both the nonprofit and business sectors, I help changemakers, entrepreneurs, organizations, and teams strengthen their connection to their mission, their people, and their bottom line. Because true success isn't just professional. It's the powerful alignment of professional and personal growth. Learn more at todayisthedayliveit.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I am your host, Jodi Grinwald, and as I say, every single episode, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And today, I have Melanie Paticoff Grossman. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
Well, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you on and to share your incredible story. Are you ready for this?
Ready?
We're going to have some fun. So, as I do all the time, I love to read a little bit about the bio and then we're going to get into your story. So, Sophie's Tales, LLC, is an educational publishing company creating products for children with hearing loss, including Hearing Our Way magazine, as well as an award-winning Sophie's Tales picture book series. Founder and CEO Melanie Paticoff Grossman serves as editor-in-chief and author of the publications, respectively. Mel earned her Master of Science in Deaf Education from Washington University School of Medicine's program in Audiology and Communication Sciences. Her background in deaf education combined with her personal experience growing up with family members with hearing loss is the secret sauce. I loved that when I saw that come through. The secret sauce behind her products, which are both educational and engaging, delighting parents, teachers, and children alike. Hearing Our Way is proudly produced from dual headquarters in Green Lawn, New York, where you reside, with her, her husband Andy, sons Ben and Hal, and dog Sophie, and St. Louis in St. Louis, Missouri, where design, print, and distribution has been based since 2014. So you're here in New York, but the distribution is in Missouri, if I said that correctly.
Yes, that's where I went to school in St. Louis. So that's where I kind of got started with all of this. And we've continued working with the team there over Zoom, just like this. And it's been great.
Oh, that's amazing. So now you have some things behind you, and we're going to get to that. For those who are watching via the YouTube channel, and if you are streaming, I suggest you go and subscribe to the Today is the Day Changemakers YouTube channel so you can see some of the great things that Mel and a lot of other guests have behind them. We actually had the original Phantom of the Opera from Broadway, had them, and I interviewed him, and he had his mask behind him, which was very, very cool. So I always encourage people to take a look at the YouTube channel. So, Mel, before we talk about the stuff behind you, let's talk about you and growing up as a child. And let's just hear a little bit about, were you more of the shy, outgoing? Who was Mel as a child?
Yeah. So I think definitely the word creative comes to mind, independent. I really enjoyed school. Always liked writing. And I was always, coming up with stories. In fifth grade, I was already like making stories and presenting them to the class, not for an assignment, just for myself and, playing pretend and all of that stuff. So I always had a great imagination and I always liked to create things. And we're going to talk about my cousin Julie, who has hearing loss, and she's really the inspiration behind my whole story. But one thing I did with her, as well as my sister, was we would always put on shows for our family. And I was like the director, producer, and they were the stars. And so this has always been in me to kind of be a little bit entrepreneurial and very creative.
And this is very creative. I mean, what you've put together. But you were how old when your cousin was born?
I was 6. We're 6 years apart.
Wow. So you were young, very, very young. And so when your cousin was born, she was born with hearing loss.
So when she was first born, she was not diagnosed yet with hearing loss. Her parents, my aunt and uncle, actually do have hearing loss, um, but they had her hearing tested, and it was not coming out that she had hearing loss. So what actually ended up happening was she had a progressive hearing loss. So those times that she was tested, she had hearing, and she was passing those tests, but then it progressed rapidly. So by the time she was 2.5 and she was language delayed, that's when they really tested it again and saw that there was significant hearing loss there. And she got her hearing aids and went to a special school for the deaf, or a program at least in New York. But my aunt soon realized that because she had already fallen so behind at age 2.5, 3, she needed to do something a little bit probably more aggressive. And she started looking for more resources and kind of discovered that St. Louis, Missouri actually is sort of a mecca for hearing loss, especially listening and spoken language, which is what my aunt had always done, my uncle, and now they wanted to pursue for my cousin. So they made their way out there and discovered this wonderful school, the MOOC Center for Deaf Education. And my cousin, just over a 3-month trial over the summer, just her language just was exploding. They saw such a change, and they knew it was the right place for them so that she could catch up, so that she could come back home to the family. So they moved out there. It took 3 years, and then she was able to mainstream back into our homeschool district. So we were in the same school district together again. So yeah, so by this time, I was 8, 9, 10, and really it was very hard. We're a very tight-knit family. We all live close by. And it was really, really hard for someone to leave. And at first I was angry and I didn't understand, what is this hearing loss? Aunt Paula has hearing loss. She's always had hearing loss. She didn't have to leave. Why does Julie have to leave? And that was a hard lesson. And thankfully, my aunt and uncle, they invited us to come out to St. Louis to visit. And I had the opportunity to go to Julie's school. And the moment I stepped foot in the school, I just saw what they were doing and I saw why they came out here and why it was so important. And from then on, I never questioned it once again because I just saw the magic that was happening and it just pulled me in. And I knew that I wanted to help other families like ours. So from then on, never
Well,
stopped.
at such a young age too.
Yeah, by that time I was probably, 11, 12. Yeah. And I was really knew that this was my path.
That's incredible. And along the path of growing into what you're doing now, did you have any thoughts? Did anything almost try to veer you off into something else?
Well, when I went to college, I was there to study deaf education to be a teacher of the deaf. That's what I thought I was going to do to make an impact, just like that school had done. And the thing that just veered me off slightly off that path is that that creative writing piece came back in. And so while I was in undergrad, one of the classes we had to take was children's literacy. And one of the topics in that class was about disability and diversity. And we learned how many books are lacking, characters with disabilities or proper representation of them. And I started to explore the books that were out there about hearing loss for kids. And I saw how outdated they were. They really didn't represent any characters that felt like my cousin Julie, who by that time had cochlear implants, so very advanced technology. I didn't see any books that had characters with that for young children. And so I decided to write my own. And luckily, I was in a time where we had Amazon and self-publishing and the internet. And as a 20-year-old, I could learn all of this. And as well, I was in St. Louis, which just happens to be a very, I think, great place for a young entrepreneur because you can really find helpful resources there, and people just embrace you. And I just feel like because it's a little bit smaller, a little bit more tight knit, I was able to really get enthralled with that self-publishing community and find the right people to surround myself with that I still have today, which is awesome. So I did that. And then I started going to conferences and doing like little author events, and I really loved it. This was with my book, Sophie's Tales. So that was based on my little dog, Sophie, and kind of combining her little personality. And she did not have hearing loss with my cousin's story. And so we had the little dog with cochlear implant. I think, yeah, I have another one right here. We have a little plushed Sophie dog and
Oh.
had this cute little children's picture book that really took off. So that was really fun. And then from there, I went to get my master's in deaf education. So still pursuing that route, but I was pretty much bit by that entrepreneurial bug by then. And I started getting my wheels turning, thinking, okay, I really enjoy, writing these books, selling them, but what can I do that might be more sustainable? Because, you make one product and you're selling it the rest of your life, right? I want to keep creating products. I'm the creative side, so I really enjoy that. So what can I do to keep creating, but also recognizing I'm selling to a very niche audience and, they're not going to keep buying 20 books that I'm going to write. So the magazine came into play. And all of a sudden, this idea hit me. A magazine, of course, it makes sense. It's a subscription, but I'll get to keep creating new things ongoingly. And it also helped that could be for older children as well, which was something that I had my audience sort of asking for as far as the picture books. So that really solved a lot of problems and a lot of challenges. So we came out with the magazine. Now it's been 10 years and it's been great. It is a subscription that goes right to homes, but it also is sold in bulk, basically, from anywhere from packs of 5 to packs of maybe 200 that go to audiology offices, cochlear implant centers at hospitals, school districts, classrooms. So we're really out there all across the country. Yeah, that's with Hearing Our Way.
You must be so proud of yourself. I mean, for doing something so important and helping kids to feel connected, right? Because that's what everybody wants to feel, whatever normal is, because normal is different for every single person. The word normal shouldn't even exist because there's no streamline to that. And so, how does it feel knowing that you have such a grandiose impact?
It feels great. I have to say, it can be a challenge to be an entrepreneur and to really be working on this solo. A lot of my time is spent just here on my own, writing, and then with my extremely small team, which is really just my designer, Peggy Neiman, who's been with me from the start and does all the graphic design in the magazine and has helped with my books as well. Um, but really, I'm here and I'm trying to think in the mind of what do I think Julie would have wanted as a kid? What would I would have wanted as a kid? When I'm writing these products, what do I know? And so I do all that and I take my best guess and I put it out in the world, but it's really not until I just, maybe get an email here or there that says, I love this magazine. I've been using this. Oh, I loved this article. And that really helps bring it to life for me and see my impact, because if not for that, I really don't see it every day, but I believe that it's out there. And I know that it is from the times that I have, of course, heard from people and the people who return year after year to get their subscriptions. So it means so much. And I'm really glad to be able to do it. And
It's
yeah,
wonderful. That
one
that
thing,
is just it's just truly wonderful. I wonder, before I ask the one question I really want to ask you, before that, how often do these magazines come out?
it's a quarterly magazine. Yeah. So this is our newest one here for spring. And so each time we pick a different theme, we try to make it based on, maybe something that the cover child mentioned. So if they like that one, horseback riding or basketball, then we kind of like try to go with that, or maybe seasonal, sometimes. So, but that keeps it really fun and exciting for me as well to be able to do that. And there's different fun elements that I'm able to change to that theme. So for instance, one thing we do is we target language development, of course, and that's where my background in deaf education really comes into play. So I know that for children with hearing loss, figurative language is really a challenge for them, that they really need to be kind of explicitly taught that. So every single magazine, we put in a different idiom. So let's see here. For instance, this one was horsing around for our horse theme. So, a kid with hearing loss, they might not have ever overheard that the way that we all grow up overhearing certain things and just kind of absorbing them like sponges. They might not. So they might need to be explicitly taught, well, what does horsing around mean? And so we always explain that and give an example. And those are the kind of little things that are in there that a kid might not even realize that it's kind of educational. Don't tell them.
Yes,
But we
they
always
don't
put in
need to
all
know
that
that.
stuff and the teachers know it's there for sure.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Now, what is Julie? think about the fact that your entire
Mm.
trajectory of your career is dedicated. I mean, what an incredible impression, she's left, because if it was just your aunt who had this, right, it probably wouldn't have sprung you into this, right? Am I right about that? I don't want to just
I
assume.
think so. I think so. Like my aunt was always inspiring to me, but I also never saw really the struggle behind her life because by the time I knew her, she's an adult, she was in law school, she's so successful, and it was just Aunt Paula and she wears hearing aids. It was no big deal. But with Julie, it was a big deal. She had to leave for 3 years. That's a big deal. It affected us all the time when going out to restaurants, making sure that she had the right seat and that she could hear everybody, repeating things, doing all sorts of things. And even those shows that I put on with my sister, behind all of that was teaching Julie music appreciation and really listening to the songs and matching up the lyrics and making hand movements that go with each part of the song so that she could stay on track with the song. This was all really, really helpful with all of her auditory training she had to do with her cochlear implants. And now her music appreciation is at such a high level compared to either other children with hearing loss, compared to my aunt. I mean, Julie really has a love for music and an understanding of music. She can recognize a song within a few bars of music. So it's very impressive. So Julie, she's doing great. She's 29, she's in Florida. And this past year, she's been helping me a little bit on the social media side of things. So she loves to like get in there and help me. I'm sure it makes her really happy. But the truth is, it was totally inspired by her and all of those opportunities that I had to go out and go to conferences and go to her school and be exposed to everything. And then from there, it was inspired by all of the rest of the children and families I met along that path who continue to inspire me.
I'm sure that makes sense. But now she's in Florida. She moved away from you again, huh?
Thank God for Zoom. We do it all.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's hard. So now there's a new book.
Yes. So to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, we came out with the Big Book of Hearing Our Way. I I don't even know how I came up with this idea, but I basically just felt like, you know, over the last 10 years, we've had a lot of longtime customers. But as time went on, kids are getting older. Maybe they're outgrowing the magazine. Teachers are retiring, and I really started to realize that now our newer customers that are coming in for the first time, they've missed 10 years of amazing stories and content and educational resources that we've provided. So I started to think, I don't want all of that to get lost, to never be seen again. 10 years, it was 40 issues. How can I take the best of that and put it in one place so that people can have it forever and it could be a resource forever? And that's really where it came from. So we went back, looked at all 40 issues, and really tried to pull. It was very, very, of course, hard to choose. I hate having to choose anything, but we tried to pull some, basically 10 of our covers, I think, and a lot of our key articles that I was really, really proud of. And what was really exciting was we went back and we got updates from some of the kids. So that was really fun to see where they are now, including Julie, of course, and see, what were their goals in life and did they achieve them? And, how are they dealing with work life now and career and relationships and all of that? So it's a really exciting project. And then we added some new bonus resources that are just fantastic, all about, IEPs for school and self-advocacy and how to talk about your hearing loss and audiology terms and a glossary and just things that we haven't gotten to do in the magazine. So it's been a really, really fun and rewarding project. Yeah.
Just your excitement comes right through the Zoom screen, and your passion is just, it's amazing, and it's really just truly inspiring for a lot of people, I believe, who will be listening. And I thank those listeners from, I think we're at 895 cities around the globe. So your voice will definitely be heard, that is for sure. And this story, but also there will definitely be people interested on where can they find you, where can they find these resources, how can they get this magazine?
Yeah, so everything is basically at hearingourway.com. I have the Sophie's Tales picture books there. We have the book, we have the magazine. We also have a digital subscription to the magazine. So it's all there, the little stuffed Sophie dog and a few other fun things that we sell. And basically, yeah, I mean, for people who are, around dispersed, who may never have heard of this before, I think those are the most important people to reach because a lot of times a child with hearing loss might be the only child with hearing loss in their class, in their grade, in their school, in their town. I mean, it's a low incidence disability. So it's a really important thing because some kids, before they have this magazine in their hands, they've literally never met anyone. They don't think there's anyone like them in the world. And all of a sudden it opens their eyes. There are people I can relate to. There are people like me. There are people who understand. And it's just like a whole new world. And it really, really helps their self-esteem.
That's wonderful. Is there any stories from the last 10 years? Is there a story you would want to share that's something that was impactful in the last 10 years besides Julie and the whole reason you started this?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I think what comes to mind off the bat was, a lot of times people will buy the Sophie's Tales books right before their child has cochlear implant surgery. And so they get the little stuffed Sophie dog, and then they send me pictures of them in the hospital gown wheeling into the OR with the dog in their hands. So
Oh my God, you're giving me chills.
I know that is like one of the things that will always stick with me, that this dog has brought so much comfort to them. So I love that. And, to see obviously a stuffed animal that has the cochlear implants on them, and, it's really sweet. And recently I had a sophomore in high school. She reached out to me, and she's a Girl Scout. And for her, I guess like senior Girl Scout Gold Star Award, she wants to work with me and have Hearing Our Way kind of sponsor her project. And she really wants to sort of bring the magazine to life for teens. She wants to create like a little Facebook group, a community, so they can really get talking with each other. She said that the magazine, she's received it. It was her cochlear implant activation gift, and she's received it ever since. And she loves it. She collects them on her nightstand. Like, it just brought it to life for me, because I remember being that kid, whether it was with American Girl magazine or whatnot, and how much, whether it's a chapter book series that you love, things like that. I mean, they just become a part of your childhood bedroom. And I can relate to that. And to feel like someone is doing that with my products is an amazing feeling. She recently went on a trip, and I was asking her, oh, can you send me a picture when you get back, with the book? Because I'd love to put it on the website. And she said, oh no, I brought the book with me. I have the book with me. Don't worry. She loves this book. She can't go to sleep without it. Like, she reads it every night. So that means like so much to me. Yeah.
Gosh, where do you get the content from when you're putting together the magazine for each issue?
Yeah. So basically, as long as either the child, the family is a subscriber, or their teacher, their audiologist, whoever, as long as they're receiving that magazine in some way, they are completely eligible to be in it. And anyone really who gives us a submission with their content, we will find a place for them. We always want to feature them. Yeah, so we always make it work. So sometimes, a lot of the time, it comes from teachers. This is a great lesson plan for them to be able to be like, okay, when we work on our self-advocacy skills, when we work on our writing skills and our language skills, we're going to do that by writing to Hearing Our Way, whether it's a letter, creative writing, a poem, an autobiographical sort of interview. They can send that in to us. So, and then from there, I read it, I review it, and I kind of see, okay, I think this child would be great for the cover. I think this child would be great for, we have a sibling section where we interview the child and the siblings who don't have hearing loss. And that kind of came from my own personal experience, where I didn't have hearing loss, but I was still part of that story. And I always want to recognize those siblings. They are part of the story, and hearing loss does affect them. So, I go through it and I see where I think it would be the best fit. And then I send any, follow-up questions as needed. So it either comes from maybe the teacher, many times the parent, and sometimes if it's an older child, they email me themselves, and then we bring the parent in and chat with them that way. So all different ways. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. And and again, website that they can what
Hearingourway.com. Yeah.
hearingourway.com. And so you mentioned something before, which, I am a big advocate for helping entrepreneurs out there as part of my consulting business. That is what I do. And entrepreneurship can be very lonely. And, sitting there by yourself. And yes, we have Zoom, and we can talk to people, and we can go to Starbucks and, and pipe into their internet and all of that. What advice do you have? You're 10 years in now. Are you more than 10 years in now? Because you had the book too.
Tennis.
So 10. And so what advice do you have? A new entrepreneur is starting out, maybe they're only a year in, maybe they're 6 months in. How do they stay steadfast, stay inspired and on their path?
Yeah, It is hard, and it takes a lot of dedication. It's a brave thing to do. It's risky. It was hard for me to see all of the other graduates from my master's program go and get their teaching jobs, and for me to know that I wasn't going to go right into the classroom and I was going to sort of be on my own that year. That is a hard decision to make. So first off, if you're making that decision, like, you are brave, and you really believe in yourself. You have to. I think there has to be passion behind it. You have to follow that passion and stick with it. And then it's just about finding resources. You can't do it alone, especially at first. So, start Googling, whether you want to be an author, you're Googling self-publishing in your city. Of course, now online, there's so many resources with Facebook groups and different things like that. But I always find, if you can find in person or you can find local people, I think that, is a really great thing to do. Um, but yeah, I think, and especially, if you are on the younger side, people always are even more willing to help, I think. Um, and just kind of like use that to your advantage and just be willing to learn and eager to learn, and just embrace anyone who does want to help you, because you're always going to pick up a little something here and there, and, never close the door on anything. You never know.
It's true. And it's a mindset. That's the thing. It's keeping, what I have found being an entrepreneur myself too, is that it's totally has to be a mindset. And you said it, the passion has to stay. Because if you lose the passion, then it's gone. So you have to, the passion needs to stay. And sometimes it's hard because the money's not coming in, right? It's so hard to do what you love, love, love. If you are an entrepreneur, have that spirit inside of you to do what you love and to be able to survive and make a living off of it. Not everybody has the ability to do that long term.
And
So
it depends what you're doing. Like with me, this is a very sort of social entrepreneurship project, almost, borderline of a nonprofit could have been. So yeah, I think, some projects you're not exactly in it for the money, but you do want to make it a business and make it work. And that's kind of where I fell, where I was really driven more by the passion, and then had to just make it work as a business to make sure it
yes.
was. Um, yeah, I know.
So it is difficult, and we have to keep the lights on, right? And sometimes it's hard to ask for those dollars, and we need to be able to do that. So, kudos to you for the amount of work that you have put in, because it's a huge undertaking for one person, for sure. And do you have a magazine? I think I see it behind you. Can you put it up to the screen, possibly?
That's it.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
Evan, I see. Oh,
Mhm.
wonderful.
It is. So he actually went to the same school as my cousin did. Yeah, so this is 10 years later.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
I love it. And so all the design work, do you do that too, or you push that out? Because
That,
that's a
that
lot
is
of
my
design.
graphic designer, Peggy Neiman, and we just work beautifully together. I met her through the St. Louis Publishers Association when I was,
Oh,
about to write the children's book. And she does, book coaching, graphic design, all sorts of things. She's a terrific resource for me, and she has just been sort of a guiding light through my projects. She helps connect me if I need a printer, mailing house, all different things. So we work really, hand in hand together, really well together, and she's awesome. Yeah, I could not do it without her for sure. So
and we have to give a shout out to the person who introduced us. Do you want to tell everybody who she is?
yes, the wonderful Amy Delman, who has been in my life my entire life. She is my mom's childhood friend and just has always been there. And she's really wonderful. And thank her for connecting us for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely do, because, one of the things that I have been so grateful for through Changemakers is the ability to introduce the change makers to each other. It's become a community, and I have a list of people in my head, a Mel, that I want to introduce you to, and also help you get the book out, and as well as the magazine, because I think that there's just so much about connection and helping people connect. When one rises, we all rise if we help each other and support each other, especially as entrepreneurs. That's so important. Is there a book or books that you've read that have truly inspired you? I'm kind of asking my guests that question as we try to make a book list for our Changemaker listeners to go out and purchase.
That's a great question. Way back when I was starting out, I definitely was reading more and definitely had books that inspired me. I remember Maxine Clark, who is the CEO or founder of Build-A-Bear Workshop, which is based in St. Louis. So she's someone that I knew when I was there, and I remember reading her book during those early days, and she really, really inspired me. And I'm sure many other people. And then more recently, when I was writing the big book of Hearing Our Way and putting that together, luckily I have a 5.5-year-old son. So I was able to steal all his books and see what's out there and get inspired by those. So this book was really some of the inspiration books that I had for that were like National Geographic does really nice, like the Big Book of Animals, things like that. And so that kind of inspired me. How do you write like sort of an informational book that doesn't have, traditional structure and everything? So that was super helpful. So yeah, I definitely think I always say, writers have to be readers, and you have to, if you're looking to write, please do your reading, find things that are similar to what you're trying to write. Definitely get inspired by people who have written, all sorts of books. And yeah, I love it.
So as you know, Changemakers is in the midst of pulling together authors from my Changemaker guests for a compilation book. And I will tell you, it is not for the weary when you're putting a book together. That is for sure. And so, if anybody is interested in, I'm now a beginner, you are not, you've been doing this for a long time. We are lucky to have some experts through our Changemaker community, lots of authors who are writing from self-help to children's books. It's incredible. And the journey is a true journey, I will tell you, as I'm in the learning process. So I give people so much credit who write multiple books, because it is an entire takes on a life of its own. So kudos to you for all the work that you're doing. Is there anything else that you want the listeners to know about you, about Julie, about the books, or your magazine?
Hmm. Um, I think just, yeah, I mean, I really like encourage people, if you have something that you think could fill a gap, a much needed gap in the market, to go for it. Because once you have that idea and you really flesh it out and it's a good idea, nobody else can do it like you can. And I know that, this comes up a lot of times with authors, but I'm sure with other entrepreneurs as well. Oh, I have this idea, but I'm worried someone else has the same idea, or I'm worried someone will steal it. Never worry about that. Um, First of all, as soon as you write, your stuff is copyrighted, so don't worry about that. But more than that, nobody is going to do it just like you're going to do it. So yes, maybe they write a similar story or have a similar product, but maybe you go to this, and this conference, or you market it differently and they market it differently. And it's never going to be exactly the same. So don't let that hold you back. Always just go for it. And then other than that, I mean, I would just say, as far as writing, especially a big book, it can be, I would say, a 2-year process, basically. And that's from writing 200-page books. I also did one for my family. And basically, like, you do just hit that stopping point, at least I did, of like self-doubt. And, I'm the only one who knows about this product, basically, maybe other than my designer. And I have I don't know if anyone will ever read it, will ever want it, but I just believe in it. And like, you just have to hang on to that really hard when it gets like tough, because you just start to doubt, like, why am I doing this to myself? But once you have it
Yes.
in your hands, it is worth it. Believe in yourself for sure.
It's so funny because you're speaking to the audience right here. That's me, because I have been trying to write a book for quite some time. And the thought process was to do it on my own, until I said, the book will have so much greater impact for what I'm trying to do if I can pull a bunch of incredible humans who are just doing great work in the world, and for what I'm trying to do. Now, there's a million compilation books out there, like you said, but everybody is an original. So that's what makes sure, we always say you have to have a differentiator. We are our own differentiators, right? Because when each one of us is doing something, we come from a different space. But what you said is so true. There are a million doctors, there are a million lawyers, there are a million, like, and yet they're still all in business, right? Because everybody chooses who they connect with better. And the same thing with books, right? The good news is somebody could read 50 books a year if they wanted to. So it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yep. Keep going.
So, exactly. So now what's next for Mel?
Good question. Um, I think now that the book is finally done, it just basically came out in December. We got the books out in time for the holidays, which was great. And so now it's just really ramping up that marketing. And that is a challenging side for me because, like I said, I'm really more of the creative. I really enjoy the writing. I enjoy the layout and putting it all together. The marketing is harder. It's not my strength. So I really have to now put the pedal to the metal and get on some either book tours, book readings, visiting some schools, some conferences. And so I'll say it here to hold myself accountable. That is definitely a goal this year. I used to do the conference circuit a lot more before I had kids myself and before COVID. And so it's been a while. And, it's always hard to put yourself out there. It's hard. Again, it's not like we have a boss saying to us, I want you to go to this conference or I want you to speak at this panel. No, it's you have to do it yourself. And if you're not really that comfortable speaking, like you have to push yourself even today, like the podcast, it's totally my decision. And sometimes it's easier not to do these things, but it's so worth it in the end. And it's always good to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I really believe in that. And I've done a lot of things that I, was nervous before, and it always turned out well. And so I know now that I can do it. And just to keep signing up and keep pushing myself, I think would be a great thing this year. And the other thing that I, probably not this year, but in the future, I would love to do like sort of create a template out of the work that I've done over the last 10 years of building my own self-published magazine. It's an unusual thing to do, and I think a lot of businesses could benefit from it. So a lot of people have information to give and a lot of sort of niche audiences to give it to. There's not a lot of magazines out there anymore, especially niche ones. So, especially now with digital magazines as well, you don't necessarily have to print it. But I think I could put something together where it teaches people how to write their own magazine, how to build your editorial calendar, how to find the right resources, how to do the layout, and how to, just keep going, doing your editing, doing your revision. What does that process look like? So that would be like a really interesting thing that I would love to offer to people in the future, businesses. Yeah.
Well, you might have a client because as you were talking about that, because this is my problem, I am what they say. I say this on a lot of podcast episodes. I'm multi-potentialite, right? And you're a multi-potentialite, and I love that. I didn't coin that phrase. I heard it on a TED Talk, which is a great TED Talk, by the way. Um, I definitely love that and think to myself how many of these incredible stories and change makers I'm in touch with. I think you're 150% right about helping people with the self-publishing. Magazines are not out there. Everything is digital now too. It's a great opportunity for you. And I'll tell you
Changemakers
something.
Magazine.
I'm sorry.
Changemakers Magazine, here we come.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny you mentioned this too, because as you said before, I'm listening to YouTube, different YouTube speakers on self-publishing. And I found someone that I really like. There's so many, but when you connect with one, you like the way they speak, you like the rhythm, you're learning it. I'm like now like addicted to her, what she's sharing. So I keep listening. So that's another avenue for you as well and of course you don't need one more thing to do, but if you did a few tutorials to try to get some clients that way through YouTube videos, I think it's just an incredible outlet because I know I love being on this journey, but I wish I only had I want to hole up in a cabin somewhere in like Nantucket and nobody talk to me and just do this, get this book going. So I
Sometimes that's what you need. I did some hotel nights. It really helps.
You did. Okay, talk to me
Absolutely.
just for a minute about that. I'd love to know.
Sure. Okay. Well, this was something I used to do in college. And if I had like a big project, I just kind of go into that hyper focus land and I just would get a hotel room with two beds. That's a key component, two beds, one for sleeping and one to just lay out everything so you can see it in front of you. And so for the magazine, for the book based on the magazine, I brought the magazines, I laid them out. I brought my inspiration books from my son's collection. I laid those out and I just like kind of not stayed up all night, but stayed up late and just, got through stuff, and just decided I'm going to leave here with my outline done. And I needed to do that because it's hard to do things piecemeal. It's hard to do things a little bit at a time when you're really in a creative mindset. So I want to like be able to stick with that creative mindset and see it through. And that allowed me to do that. So I definitely encourage that. And actually, Highlights Foundation, they do all sorts of book retreats, and you can rent a little cabin and write your book there for the weekend or for a night or whatever. And so it's a real thing, and you should definitely look into it.
Oh my, I'm so glad this came up.
Yeah,
That was amazing. And it's so, I love what you shared about the two beds. Who would have ever thought of that?
strategy.
That's a great strategy, but it also shows because I know I feel very fragmented, and I'm sure others who are listening to this who might be in on this journey as well. It's like, okay, I'm in my regular job mode, I'm in my podcast mode, and then okay, let me go spend an hour listening to the YouTube video and then write something, and then now I got to get back to another podcast. And so the creativity is choppy, and it's hard to get the groove back again when you try to.
Hunker down. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that for the ADHD mind, you're like, it's a lot. Yeah,
That's me. Yep.
me too. That's why I'm like, I totally get what you're saying. Oh, I love this idea. I have to
Yeah,
think
no,
now.
that's been a part of my story as well, because I basically self-diagnosed and then got official diagnosed when I became a mom and during COVID. And when I saw that, sort of monotony of the bottle feeding and the diaper changes and the day-to-day with the baby, and I was like, no, no, no. Like, I just saw how much I thrived on my creativity and had always relied on it. And all of a sudden, when that was sort of stripped away from me and I was just home and we weren't doing anything because it was COVID, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really hard for me. And my mom would always say to me, why are like things that are really easy for everyone else really hard for you, but things that are really hard for everyone else really easy for you? And that's when I knew I had ADHD, because that is like the definition of it. So that's been a journey. And I think once I knew that and I was aware of that, I could then learn about it and lean into strategies that would help me. And so instead of, putting myself down for, well, why can't I only get stuff done when it's last minute, late at night, and for hours on end, and I'm in hyper focus? Well, that's because you have ADHD. And so lean into that. Let yourself go into hyper focus. Set yourself up for success. If you know that's how you work best, okay, then book a night at the hotel and go do it, if you can. Because all I needed was 1 or 2 nights here and there. It wasn't like an everyday thing, but just to get those thoughts out. And then it also reduces your own anxiety and the thoughts in your head that are always swirling with ideas, because I go through that every day. And sometimes you just need to get it out on paper, and then you feel this weight off your shoulders. So I really encourage anyone who feels that way to go do that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think you're in my head because that's everything and everything I am and everything I know that ADHD people are. And that last minute, I can get super hyper focused. I was teaching a class and on how to start a podcast. Literally, like 36 hours before the class, I was putting the workbook together. It came out great, but at the end of the day, I was sweating. You know what I mean? And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? So I do have a question because you have seemed to have figured some really good things out, and we all can learn from each other. What would you say top two, three, whatever, as many as you want, tips and tools that you've learned in dealing with ADHD?
Mm, okay. Number one, try medicine. It's been proven to work very well, and you don't have to suffer. At least give it a try. That's number one. Number two, be proud, because, I think the bulk of entrepreneurs, of creative people, probably have ADHD. And the more you read about it, the more you'll see that, the more you'll learn. And it's special. And, so many of us, maybe we didn't know we had it, maybe we did, and just have felt, ashamed of it, or just felt like different our whole lives. And I think there's freedom in just knowing that, like, it's the same thing with the magazine, honestly, with hearing loss. You're not alone. And once you see that other people share your experience, you feel like a different human being. And that's what I try to give people through Hearing Our Way, is these kids feel like I'm the only one who suffers in the cafeteria because I can't hear. I'm the only one who doesn't want to go to the restaurant because I'm not going to be able to hear them anyway. No, you're not. There are other kids who feel just the same way you do. And all of a sudden, that point of connection is everything to people. So find that, find your people you can relate to, find a podcast you love, everything. There's so many resources out there. And so it's given me a lot of resources, freedom, and just confidence, I think, and knowing like this is why I can do creative things. So I can never be upset that I have ADHD, because I wouldn't be me without it. So now it's
Oh
just
my
playing
gosh,
into it. Yeah. And just finding ways to thrive in it, because there are a lot of challenges.
100%.
Yeah.
There are. Have you learned anything about how not to procrastinate? I would love to know because I can't figure it out. And I'm a coach and I help other people. But for myself, the not procrastinating, because that's when I do my best work, is
Yeah.
under that pressure. Yet I hate it and I stress myself out.
I will give you one tip. I think a lot of people become entrepreneurs with ADHD because then they can work alone, they can work on their own timeline. The more you can bring other people in, it makes accountability for you and gives you timelines. So for instance, because with the magazine, I can't design it on my own. I'm not a printer. I can't print it. I can't mail it. All of these people are relying on me to give them things in time. If I'm late giving it to the designer, she needs a certain amount of time to design it. I can't make her procrastinate. I can't rush her to do it 24 hours in advance. No, like it's not fair. So I know that my deadline for her is such and such. And then we know that the deadline for the printer to get it to them to print it in time to get out the time that we've promised our customers is blah, blah, blah. And then of course the customers themselves, they know to expect the magazine, December 1st, March 1st, 4 times a year. And that's my deadline. So you have to kind of create those deadlines for yourself to keep yourself on track, I think. And that way you can't procrastinate because then you'd be, messing up other people's timelines and have angry customers. So I think that really helps anytime you can find accountability. And I think the book project also, it cannot be procrastinated. It has to be printed. That takes time. It has to be shipped. That takes time. So it's not up to you. The more you do things digitally, yes, that you can procrastinate more. But the more you can do things that really, have to be a physical item or have to rely on other people, it'll hold you accountable. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't stress yourselves out. I can say this. It's like when the creativity hits, you need to go with it. And if it's 3 weeks before the deadline, go with it. Don't wait till the night before
Right.
because that's my biggest thing because then I'm sweating it out and stressed out and it doesn't feel good, right? Because the process should be fun and
Mhm.
exciting and you should be feeling less stressed through it as opposed to, oh my gosh, why did I do? I always say these words to myself. Why did I do this to myself? And
Right.
it comes out great, but I'm like, oh my goodness, my hair's standing up. So
I think, and there's also ways to embrace your procrastination or your hyper focus in ways that work better with your schedule and keep you on track. So for instance, for me, my work day is Wednesdays. And this was, a long discussed thing. My mom is probably laughing when she listens to this, but she always said to me, why can't you just work, 2 hours a day while the kids are taking their nap or whatever? And I would say, I can't. I just need my Wednesdays. I just need my day to get it all done. That is how I work best. I don't want to break it up into 2 hours a day. I want to have 8 hours. And so thank God for her and my dad who helped me with the kids and everything. And so they give me my blessed Wednesdays that are so sacred to me. But that's where I get to procrastinate or to hyper focus because on Wednesdays, if it's time to write content, I'm writing content morning to night. Like that's my Wednesday is just writing content. I barely get up out of the chair because I just go into that creative mode and I write the whole magazine in one day. But if you know that's how you work best, fine. So I made it work for myself. That's my work day and I get it all done and I don't have to break it up anymore. So I think just finding strategies like that where you're not up all night, you're not, late on your deadline, but you are still embracing your hyper focus or whatever you need to do. I think that kind of works. So workarounds.
that's great. We never knew we were going to go in this direction.
No,
So this is awesome. And so speaking of which, have you done a podcast before?
I have not.
So you're totally a natural.
Nope.
You truly are. You have such a great spirit, and thank you for being. This is your first podcast, so I'm honored that that's today's the day Changemakers, and will be your first podcast in your list of podcasts that I'm sure you will be doing because you have so much to share.
Having me. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Any other things before we end this episode?
I don't think so. I mean, I just would say if anyone, is a person with hearing loss, a child with hearing loss, or has one in their lives, just know that you can do anything, just like anyone else. You can do anything. Your hearing loss will never hold you back, and always, believe in yourself and know that you can do it, and you are amazing. I think anybody who has an obstacle to overcome. And that's the name of one of my books, Overcoming Obstacles. And we really focus on that term. I love that. So whether it's ADHD, whether it's hearing loss, any challenge really, you can always overcome it and you will be better for it. You can always get through it. So just keep going.
That's right. I love that. Just keep going. And we all have obstacles and we all are so uniquely different. So embrace each other's differences, right? That's our thing. Don't judge each other's differences.
For
That's
sure.
that's what's important. Mel, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story. And thank you for all you're doing to help children, adults who are going through an obstacle, but you're there to support them. And I hope you'll come back and share some more stories as time goes on.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. Thanks for everything you're doing as well.
No, no worries at all. And I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day you cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So, what steps, small or large, are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Don't forget to subscribe to the Today is the Day Changemakers podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day. And to learn more about upcoming events with incredible changemakers, and maybe Mel will be one of them that comes on and shares some more great insight through a workshop. We hope so. Please go to todayisthedayliveit.com. Again, that's todayisthedayliveit.com. Mel, thank you again and have a great week, everyone.